The Church of Christ we have today, a blessing from the Lord. He gave her to His Son to save and take her home above. The turtle dove is singing now, the winter's past and gone. Rise up, my fair one, come away. I'll take you home to stay. She was His bride before she knew she had a husband dear, and when for her His choice was made, it caused her to draw near. The turtle dove is singing now, the winter's past and gone. Rise up, my fair one, come away. I'll take you home to stay.
I missed church last Sunday, and I guess the Lord is telling me that. I would ask that y'all would continue to pray and pray for me, that maybe my voice will hold out for a few minutes. It's been 2 weeks since I sang, and I could hardly even sing today. But what I've had on my mind the last couple of weeks, actually, I got some markers here, but I can't remember which ones. Is living water. There were a couple of scriptures over in Numbers, I believe, where it's at, where Moses and Aaron, they were out in the desert and had no water, and the people were revolting against them, saying, "Here, you brought us out here, took us out of Egypt where we had everything we needed, and now you're taking us out into the desert and we don't even have water to drink." So God came to Moses and He told him what to do. And so the first time He told him to strike the rock. And he did, and there was water. And they were able to drink and give water to their beasts. And then later it happened again. And God and Aaron were in the door of the tabernacle, and the Lord came to them and told them what to do. And He didn't tell them to strike the rock this time, but Moses did. He told them to speak to the rock. And Moses didn't do it. So He wouldn't let Moses then cross over into the promised land. In that, I think the top of the church, in that when we do the things that He has told us to do, we're allowed to come in and to worship with Him. But when we don't do those things that He tells us to do, He doesn't give us all the blessings that we could obtain. Moses and Aaron weren't able to obtain the blessings that second time. They didn't get to cross over into the promised land. But Christ, I believe, was and is that water. And he's the living water. Now, over in the book of John, I guess that's where I'll go. Let me go to Lamentations first. Or Zechariah. Let me get one so I can see. But in the 14th chapter of the book of Zechariah, it says in the, I'll start in the 6th verse of the 14th chapter. And it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark. But it shall be one day which shall be known to the Lord, not day nor night, but it shall come to pass that at evening it shall be light. And it shall be in that day that living waters shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the hinder sea. In summer and in winter shall it be. You know, I believe that's talking about Jesus and his ministry. I don't know, I haven't heard anyone talk about this, but in me reading that, that's what I get from it. That Jesus went out all about Jerusalem preaching the gospel. And in that, he was shedding that water unto those that believed unto him. That water that he gives us is that living water that is a result of us being born again. And that only his children have access to that water. And that he gives us that water that we might grow in him and become disciples of Christ and live unto him. Now over in, I'll go to John this time. Or no, I'll tell you what, let me go to Luke. That's probably the better place to go. If I can find it. No, it's John. In the 4th chapter. You know, Jesus had been out with his disciples and they had been wandering, left Judea and came into Samaria. And they come upon the land where Jacob had given that land unto Joseph, and his well, Jacob's well, was there. He dug that well for the people. And there was a Samaritan woman there ready to draw in water. And he was there alone because his disciples had gone into town to get something to eat. And so he come up to the woman and he asked her, "Give me to drink." And the woman said to him, "How is it that thou, being a Jew, askest of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans." And Jesus said unto her, "If thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that saith to thee, Give me to drink, thou wouldest have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water." Now here he's teaching us that we need to ask of him to give us to drink so that we might not thirst, that we might receive that living water and have it to grow and to sustain us. You know, in the natural world, when man cannot live but just a few days without water, and he continues, he gets worse and worse and worse until he dies. He's got to continually be refreshed or drink water to stay alive. But I think that once Jesus has given unto us that water to drink, that we are alive from henceforth. That even if we didn't drink of it anymore, we would still be alive in Him and be children of Him. But if we will come and continue to ask Him to drink of that water, that we are then become what He has asked us to be, to follow Him and walk in His footsteps. Now there are a lot of His children that live in the world that don't have the truth. But they do have His Spirit, because every one of His children has His Spirit within them. But those children worship Him not in truth. And God seeks those that will worship Him in spirit and in truth. And there are very few of His children that do that in this world. And that if we don't watch ourselves, that we will end up in the same boat as them. We'll lose the truth if we don't continue in it. Practice is, I believe, is the same thing as truth. If you're doing something in practice that's not the truth, you've lost the truth. Even though there may be things that you believe, the doctrine and things, but if you don't believe it in totality, the full thing, you don't have the whole truth. And He teaches us to teach the whole counsel of God. And we have to do that. You know, over in John, I'll finally get there, in the 7th chapter, and in the, I'll just start in the 37th verse. In the last day, that great day of the feast, Jesus stood and cried, saying, If any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink. He that believeth on me, as the Scripture hath said, he's quoting the Old Testament here, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. Now what does that mean? Out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. I think that living water there that he's talking about that flows out of us is His Spirit that goes out and it affects all that are around us. It flows out of us. It's something that we can't hide. It's nothing that you don't want to put a bushel over it and hide it. It's something that you want to go out and you want to show that you love Him and that you follow Him in spirit and truth. And we must continue to do that. Come on, brother.